Good morning, all. I would like to request all of you to take a seat as we are going to start our program within a minute. So please take your seat. I know all of you are a little tired. We have passed a very good night yesterday. I think most of you enjoyed yesterday night at Registan Square. So people are coming. It's a good gathering here. So we will start within a minute. Thank you. So can we start? Yeah, thank you. First, let me introduce our panelists as I am instructed to make a little bit shorter because as we are 7 minutes late, so I have to cut down the introduction because most of the people are very well known and you can find them on the website also about themselves. First, I would like to introduce Mr. Felix, who is the Deputy Chief of Sustainability Officer, Inditex. So we all know the Inditex as a brand. And then we have Mr. Akila, who is the Assistant Vice President of EPIC Group, it's a global conglomerate based in Hong Kong. And we have Mr. Femi, International Financial Corporation, IFC's lead global manufacturing and trade finance in USA. So all the money actually with him. So, and let me introduce myself. I am Fazle Shamim Ehsan, Executive President, Bangladesh Knitwear Manufacturers and Exporter Association, and also I'm the board member of International Apparels Federation. So, just in a short description of this session, during this session, we will explore the supply chain collaboration that is necessary to achieve the record result for the Scope 3 decarbonization of the apparel and textile industry. Rather than focus purely on technical innovation, in this session, panelists will also discuss organizational innovation. In our view, a powerful but underestimated solution. The topic will be approached from the three different and essential perspectives, that of the brand retailer, that of the manufacturers, and that of the financial world. Brands, retailers, and manufacturers have started to develop a converged vision on the organizational of decarbonization, involving a mix of country-specific plan and global standard, as well as a mix of manufacturers' leadership and brand support. Better and especially more scalable decarbonization plans will be able to attract more capital, which is where the third panelist of the session comes in. So I don't want to take more time. Let's go for the first session of question. In the first round, I would like to offer you all the opportunity to explain your organization's vision on the needed reduction of greenhouse gas emission in our industry and on the action that each of your organization is currently taking. So, can I start with Mr. Felix? Yeah. My first question to you, Inditex. Inditex, as a major global retailer, has a vision for the industry to reduce its greenhouse gas emission. What challenges and opportunities do you see for the industry as a whole and for Inditex as a company, and what action is Inditex taking to meet the challenges? Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Hello, good morning to everybody. First of all, thank you so much to ITMF and AIF and the friends of the different organizations here in Uzbekistan to invite me to participate in this convention and also to be part of this panel. I'm going to talk about collaboration, as I mentioned, with a special focus in decarbonization. Okay. I think the first element is to be conscious about the impact of the fashion industry. When I'm talking about fashion industry, I'm talking about the whole value chain, from the extraction of the raw materials through the spinners, the fabric mills, the dyeing mills, the manufacturing apparel mills, till the moment that the brands has the product in the shops and our clients are using. I think you have been talking during these days about some of these topics, maybe not so deeper, but I think all of you are very conscious about the use of chemical product in the supply chain, in the product, the use of water, the volumes of waste that we are producing around the world, the impact in biodiversity, and something that was, in our opinion, a topic that is right now on the table, that is the microfiber shedding. These days when our colleagues were talking about the use of cotton or use of polyester, I missed a deeper dialogue about this topic. It's something that, in our opinion, is going to happen very soon. In 2023, you know for sure that there was a new regulation about the use of a voluntary use of microplastic in some products. And this is only the beginning, because we are convinced that very soon we will have a regulation about the produce of microfiber shedding from the textile product. And it's something that I think the industry need to think about how to implement solutions. We have spending a lot of resources in this topic, but I think it's something really relevant. And I think also a very important element is the workers, no? With this figure of 75 million workers, according to the World Bank, participating in the whole value chain. About the supply chain and indicators, this is the figures of our supply chain in 2023. 2023, we used more than 1,700 suppliers in 45 markets who were creating our product using more than 1,100 factories, and as a positive result, generating more than 3 million jobs. You can see there the distribution, the geographical distribution of our suppliers. We are using suppliers in 4 continents, but if you think about the raw materials, maybe in 5. And the factories involved in our supply chain. More than 3,000 spinning, weavings, and other raw material processes. 96 specifically factories dedicated to cutting, almost 4,000 sewing mills, more than 100 dyeing and washing mills, 211 printing mills, and almost 300 paintings, and almost also 300 in finishing. And more than 300 in non-textile product, because we have a brand at home that offered a different range of products. This is a very complex supply chain, maybe the most complex supply chain in our sector, and create to us some challenges, only because the control of the supply chain, but also the impact in the elements in the earth, in the land, in the water, and so on. For that reason, this is our footprint. This is the carbon footprint emissions in 2023, a total amount of more than 60,000 kilotons of CO2 equivalent. If you analyze carefully the diagram, you can see that our scope 1 and scope 2. Scope 1 is our own operation. Scope 2 is the CO2 related to the use of energy in our own premises, offices, shops, warehouses, and factories. Is more than 90, is nothing, no? If you compare with the scope 3, that it represents more than 98%. And in this scope 3, the emission related to the production of our product is more than the 60%. For that reason, we have some public commitments by 2025 to reduce the use of water by 25% across the supply chain. In 2030, reduce our emissions by more than 50%, including our own operations and value chain. To achieve this, we will pare our absolute scope 1 and scope 2 by 90%, and our scope 3 emissions at least 50%, with respect to the baseline of 2018. And in 2040, our ambition is to achieve net zero emissions. That means total reduction of at least 90% of our CO2 footprint, and with respect to the 2018. We are completely aligned with the Paris Agreement that you meant is to cut the evolutions of the global temperature and to maintain in 1.5 degrees. This is a challenge, and for to achieve this challenge, we have defined our sustainability strategy that is based in two key pillars. One is the fiber plan. I didn't introduce a lot of information about this fiber plant, but you can find a lot of information in our website. The idea is that by 2030, all the fiber used in our product will have less impact. That means that in terms of the cotton, we will use organic cotton, regenerative cotton, or recycled cotton. For polyester, only recycled polyester, and for the rest of the fibers, something similar, you know. And for the transformation of the supply chain, we have two main lines of work. One is linked with the social and labor aspects in the supply chain that is included in our strategy work at the center. You can find also a lot of information in our website. And for the environmental questions, we have our supply chain environmental transformation plan with the first step starting this year in 2024 and will finish in 2027. Why we are going to finish in 2027? Because we need to understand exactly how has been the impact at that time, because in 2030 we have the first goal, no? Is the reduction at least of 50% of the total footprint in our supply chain. What exactly means this transformation plan? The three areas of action are, the first one is increase the environmental requirements for the factories working for us in the supply chain in terms of water consumption, wastewater discharge, chemical use, carbon footprint, and improving the waste management. Waste management means any kind of waste, you know, even the cutting waste in the cutting facilities, but also other dangerous waste that is normally produced in a factory. You know? We mentioned wider scope because we are including spinning mills, weaving mills, cutting and sewing facilities, as well as the waste processes mills. And our intention is to collaborate with these factories in our supply chain, offering them technical support to develop their own transformation plan. I mentioned this regulation, specifically speaking about decarbonization, because Dirk yesterday explained you very well how it's going to be the landscape in terms of new regulation in Europe. But I underline this eco-design regulation because I think this is something that can motivate also and can be an incentive for decarbonization. Yesterday, Dirk has explained very well what is the elements of this new regulation, but in my opinion, the most important question is the objective of this directive, that is improving the environmental sustainability of the product. That at the same time means that will require an improvement in terms of CO2 footprint and decarbonization in the whole supply chain. And finally, one of the activities that we have been developing is this agreement between Inditex and the International Apparel Federation. Although we have this transformation plan that we are developing together with our suppliers and factories in our supply chain, we think that is not enough. It's not enough to achieve a real transformation in the industry. And our intention here is to help the industry to develop a program that should be the country by country or region by region, the guidance of the whole supply chain in these countries. The ownership should be assumed by the local organizations, and our intention is to collaborate with the industry. Oh, sorry, because it's not working. Helping them at least in the technical assistance, provide our knowledge and our financial support to develop these transformation plans. And thinking about the time, I think I don't have many other things to share with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Felix. Now, Mr. Akila, I would like to ask you the similar question, but then coming from the manufacturer's perspective. EPIC, as a major manufacturer, has a good view of the situation on the ground in the factories. What challenges and opportunities to reduce greenhouse gas emission can you see from the manufacturing side, and what actions are you taking as a EPIC group?
Thank you, IEF and ITMF, for having us here. It's a great honor to speak in front of such an inspiring audience. My name is Akila Fernando, and I am from a technical background, coming from EPIC Group. And so before I start talking about our journey at EPIC or the challenges that we face as manufacturers in general, I just want to show you some images, some interesting images that I found. Interesting may not be the right word. There are some alarming photos and figures that I found while making the presentation. But I'm not going to explain all 4 photos because I'm not a climate scientist, and these photos speak for themselves, but I will just speak about the first 2 images. So the first one says that approximately 95% chance that 2024 beats 2023 be the warmest year on record. And the second one shows that the top 10 warmest years on record are from the last decade. So the thing that is difficult for me to digest here is that our future is not going to be any better than this. It will be worse or much worse unless we do something significant. And these are some of the newspaper articles from India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan, where a significant portion of manufacturing is taking place. And I'm sure you have heard about them, or you have experienced them firsthand about the heat waves, including myself. And since I've been working in Bangladesh over the last few months, I know how difficult it is to work under these climate conditions. So what I want to highlight here is that going forward in forums like this, decarbonization targets or greenhouse gas emission targets should not be the only discussion topic. Adaptability has to be an agenda item, because this is going to be our new normal. Like I said in my previous slide, the global temperature is increasing every year. So this is going to be our new normal, so we have to adapt ourselves if we are to sustain. So these are some of the interesting facts related to our industry, some of the things that we can be proud of and some of the things that we can't be proud of. So global fashion industry is responsible for 3 to 8% of greenhouse gas emissions. So whatever we do as an industry will not only have an impact on within the industry, but will have an impact on the global context as well. And 20% of the industrial wastewater pollution is caused by textile dyeing and finishing, and 85% of textile are discarded annually, which means every second a truck full of textiles or garments being landfilled or burned. And decarbonization targets or greenhouse gas emission targets, these are buzzwords in our industry. I'm sure each of you have been part of such discussions. But having said that, only 37% of the brands are on track to meet their greenhouse gas emissions by 2030, provided they continue at the current pace. And 40% of the brands have reported that their emission intensities have increased compared to their baseline. So yes, we are making progress, but to answer the simple questions, are we on track? No, we are not. And the graph on to your right is an interesting one, but an old one also, but I wanted to have it since it's telling a story. So this is the greenhouse gas trajectory from 2018 to 2030. So we've been emitting 2.1 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalent in 2018, and the industry is expected to grow at a rate of 2%. If we don't take any initiatives on sustainability, we will end up at 2.7 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalent by 2030. But if we move at the current pace of sustainability initiatives, we will be at 2.1 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalent, which is the same level as we were in 2018. So, but if you are to achieve a 1.5 degree target, we should be hitting 1.1 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalent by 2030. So we are 100% ahead of our 100% deviated from our target. So definitely we will have to change our gears and accelerate what we are doing. And these are some of the targets that are applicable for our industry. Some of these are general targets like this BTI, and fashion chart is specific to our industry. And there are almost all the brands have their own brands for manufacturers. So manufacturers we are following at least one of these targets or multiple targets when they are working with multiple brands. But the more important thing is not about the number of commitments that you have made, the number of pledges that you have made. It's important. The important thing here is that what action you put in place to reduce your greenhouse gas emissions. So if you look at the potential of decarbonization of fashion value chain, manufacturers are nearly accounting to about 60% of the emissions in tier 1 and tier 2. And just by switching from conventional electricity sources to renewable electricity, we have potential to cut down 1/4 of the emissions. And renewable energy is currently at a very competitive price, and it's a well-mature technology. And if you look at tier 2, a significant portion, about 70 to 80% of the energy is coming from thermal, which is a bit of a tricky one since when switching here, we have to switch our fuel, maybe from coal to gas or gas to biomass. But the moment you decide to switch your fuel, it will not have an impact only on the capex, but have an impact on the opex as well. So who's going to bear that incremental cost? It's a question mark. But even if you look at this one, out of this 70 to 80%, a significant portion is used to produce hot water, but there are enough technologies that are available currently to produce hot water using waste recovery systems. So when it comes to challenges for manufacturers, I'm talking about the challenges in general for the manufacturers, since I'm representing the manufacturers here. So like I said earlier, when you talk about challenges, we can't only talk about decarbonization, we have to talk about adaptability as well, since we have to adapt ourselves to the new normal. So decarbonization of electricity is quite straightforward because solar is a well-mature technology, and it's a technology that can easily be used to apply for funding. And we occupy a large roof space as an industry, so rooftop solar is a suitable solution for us. But then again, thermal is a problem because once we start moving from one source to one fuel to another, our operational cost will also increase. Plus there are certain challenges by going to fuels like sustainable biomass. Say for an example, in countries like India and Bangladesh, sustainable biomass is readily available. But if you move to countries like Bangladesh, the supply chain is not that available. And so we need collective effort to influence the governments to help facilitate these transitions. And also, even though I say electricity decarbonization is straightforward, there are country-specific, region-specific challenges that we need to address collectively. Say, for an example, in Bangladesh, in export processing zones, the net metering facility is not available, even though you want to go for solar. So these things, this has to be addressed collectively by the industry. And if you ask manufacturers, the biggest challenge for decarbonization, 99.9% would say funding. Yes, funding is a problem. Debt is there, debt is a solution, but debt will not be a solution for everyone. I'm not talking about the large-scale manufacturers here. I'm talking about the manufacturing in general, especially about the small to medium-scale manufacturers. They are already trapped in debt to fulfill their operational needs and for their business expansions. So if we put the sustainability transition also as a burden on top of it, we will not see the results. Plus, manufacturing takes place in countries where the geopolitical situation is not very good, and so the debt comes with an additional risk component, making it expensive and unaffordable. But on the other hand, compared to manufacturers, the brands are in a much better position to afford debt, which can be used to decarbonization the value chain, and that can be repaid through mechanisms like product discounts. So our strategy at EPIC, so I'm not, since in interest of time, I'm not going to talk about everything in detail, but we have 6 main pillars in our sustainability framework at EPIC. HIG-FEM gives an overall understanding about sustainability aspect of in our factories, and our target is to reach 90 by 2030. And if you look at the greenhouse gas emissions and freshwater intake, our target is to cut down the emissions and freshwater intake by 50% compared to our 2019 baseline by 2030. And here we are looking at the absolute numbers, not only not the intensities. So even though we are expanding exponentially, we make sure that we are not adding any greenhouse gas emissions or freshwater requirements to our portfolio going forward. And we target 95% of recycling by 2030, not only recycling, but we want to start using products made out of recycled material to actively engage in closing the material circularity loop. If you look at the greenhouse gas and freshwater intensities, we have cut down our emission intensity by 18% from 2017 to 2023, while the freshwater intensity has come down by 28% during the same period. So our strategy to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and water, we have planned 15 megawatts of on-site rooftop solar over the next 5 years. We have planned 3 megawatts in this year in Bangladesh and another 5 megawatts in India and Jordan next year. And off-site solar wherever is required, and we will switch to sustainable biomass, especially in Bangladesh and Jordan, India. As we speak, we are trying out our first biomass boil in Bangladesh. So we are working with the authorities, local authorities, to have this proper supply chain. If this works out, it will help not only EPIC, but also the industry in general in Bangladesh, as we are searching for a sustainable fuel to cater the thermal requirements. And energy efficiency improvement. So we are a company believes in continuous improvement. Last year also we invested about $700,000 in efficiency upgrade, which gave us good return on investment. So energy efficiency, the moment you talk about sustainability or decarbonization, the first thing that comes to our mind is solar. But even in the greenhouse gas abatement cost curve, energy efficiency improvement is considered as one of the key things that can reduce your carbon footprint. And there's a big technology gap between what is available commercially in the northern hemisphere and what is being used in the southern hemisphere in manufacturing. So that gap has to be bridged with the support, obviously, through organizations like ITMF, IEF, and brands. because we can't talk about achieving 2030, 2040 targets using machines that are 30, 40 years old. So definitely the technology has to be there. It has to be a technology-driven approach that we have to have in place. And of course, to achieve our water targets, we are recycling our water effluent. So we have 3 laundries in Bangladesh. Out of that, 2 ETPs have been upgraded to meet CDHC standard, and with 50 to 80% of water recycling. And going forward, we will not add any factories that will have an impact on emissions and carbon water, as we have committed to cut down our absolute emissions and water intake. And we are grateful to our funding partners, IFC, HSBC, Standard Chartered, to help us achieve our sustainability goals and believing in sustainable manufacturing. So finally, I will just spend 30 seconds to speak about EPIC India, which is going to be the newest addition to our EPIC family. It's, we have 4 manufacturing units and a laundry in this new factory, which is going to be ready by 2025, June 2025. So this factory we wanted to develop as a blueprint for sustainable manufacturing, which can be easily be replicated in anywhere for manufacturers. And this is going to be a net zero manufacturing facility. All buildings are powered with net zero solar, rooftop solar. And we use hybrid cooling because we want to make the factory a future ready factory. And also we have done the building in a way that we uses the maximum amount of natural light inside the building. Plus we recycle all the water inside the factory, plus we do harvest rainwater. That's all I have. I have taken 30 seconds more. Thank you very much for your time, and I want to answer questions during the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you, Akila. Now, Mr. Femi, your angle on collaboration to improve sustainability in the apparel industry is a financial one. So can you tell us how the IFC views collaboration and how you see your organization's role?
Assalamu alaikum. I would like to thank everybody here for the opportunity to address this gathering, and many thanks to ITMF for inviting me. It's the first time being here. I like the outdoor. And this summer, we had record temperature in the United States. But it is not just in the United States. From wildfire in Canada, in California, flooding in Africa, the challenge of global warming is huge. And it is not restricted to one single country. But we have a challenge. For me to be here today, I have to get a visa. I have to cross multiple countries and checks at many stops on the way. How many people like me have to get a visa to be here? Can you show your hand if you have to get a visa to be here? Just 2, 3? How many people needed visa to be here? But how many people here know where carbon emission gets their visas? Where do we get visas for emission? The emission in Bangladesh, in Indonesia, the one in the United States, where are the boundaries? The challenge for the world is there are no boundaries for emission. And this creates a problem, because in trying to find a solution for global warming, for climate change, there are no boundaries. And it creates the typical game theory challenge, because the action of one party costs a lot for the party, and the benefit doesn't come if everybody else doesn't behave in the same way, right? Which brings us to the topic for today, collaboration. How do we collaborate in this sector to begin to fix the problem? So I represent the International Finance Corporation, which is the private arm of the World Bank. If we think about it today, The impact of the industry that the people here are covering comes in 3 dimensions. We have the pollution, we have the resource depletion, the impact on the ecosystem as a whole, the impact on our heads, and the carbon emission. All these 3 buckets require a collaborative approach for us to begin to solve the problem. If we don't do anything, the emission for your industry will continue to rise. The estimate today is that over 3% of global emission comes from this industry. By 2030, we're going to be talking about 2.7 billion tons per annum of emission coming from this industry. And the impact on the health of people on the planet is going to be so huge. And we need to start fixing the problem. So where are the opportunities for us? If we think and we take a value chain approach for the industry, from the input into your industry, from raw material at the cotton level, to the processes that we use in making fiber, to the manufacturing and the waste that is created in the manufacturing process, to the transportation, to the operation, and even the business model for our industry, there are so many opportunities for us to begin to reduce the impact on the planet. And then when we come finally to the end of life for the product, the current approach in the world where fast fashion is dominating require that we take a different approach to how the industry impacts the planet. So what can we do? So there are 3 buckets of things we can do. We can begin to change the approach globally. The consumer pattern needs to change. The idea of we make, we use, we trash, we need to change overall, because if you don't, we're not going to begin to solve the problem. We need to improve practices for manufacturing companies from the beginning of the value chain to the end of life. We also need to begin to think about how can we share infrastructure. It is very easy for us to put solar panel on our roof as a manufacturing company or as a garment manufacturer. But the management of waste outside of boundary, it is not within our control. So this requires that we engage with the public sector, with the municipal management authority, to begin to factor actions that will benefit the overall industry in the way we do things. So, taking a look at this, right, we need to think about how we develop efficient recycling ecosystem, which includes the collection, the logistics, the processing, and the technology for recycling materials for our industry. This is important in the sense that for everything we make, there are impacts that needs to be controlled, that needs to be managed. And this we cannot do alone without engaging with the policymaker, ensuring that we have the enabling environment to make things happen. But this is not going to come free. It costs money. So there's some collaboration that is required with the financing community as a whole, especially the development financing community. So, we need to share data, we need to label products, and we need to ensure that the labeling and the data collection is available to the industry as a whole. We need to engage with the public stakeholder. We need to ensure that government does its own part. We also need to begin to work on new business models. And we need to ensure the value chain is resilient enough to collaborate in a way that can begin to improve the output for the sector. Engagement with the consumer in terms of orientation and education is really important. And we need to address barrier at each level for the industry to take off. So looking ahead, there are so many challenges, but there are opportunities as well. And it's not going to be just for your industry. It's going to be for your industry, for the development finance community, for government stakeholders, for the academic community, for technology provider. How do we ensure that the interaction across all these multiple stakeholders are done in such a way that can catalyze the change that is required in the industry? So what can we do at the IFC? You know, in Africa, we have a saying that charity begins at home. Our collaboration needs to begin within this room. And I'm happy to report that even looking at our panel today, the collaboration is already happening. So the International Finance Corporation that I represent, we're financing EPIC to modernize its operation and build new factories and expand. We're supporting in details with one of their ventures in Morocco to look for ways to develop new ways to recycle materials. We're working with RIOP to scale up their technology, which is an innovative technology for recycling, and see how we pilot and we scale up this. And we're looking for more opportunity to work with members in the room and for people who are outside the room in terms of finding solution. I give you a sample of some of the things we can do. We have a global supply chain finance. We have $1 billion of facility that we use for short-term financing. And we've structured this in a way that can help catalyze change in the value chain. So we work with the likes of Levi's, with Ralph Lauren, with Nike, to design sustainability-linked pricing for their value chain, such that suppliers for these brands who do the right thing in terms of what is necessary for the environment, they can get discounted rates when they take money for short-term financing. We have the ability to provide alternate financing structure, including blended finance that will encourage the right behavior. For many years, we work in Bangladesh through the Partnership for Cleaner Textile, where we support energy efficiency, resource efficiency in form of advisory and project preparation. We are also now looking for ways to aggregate renewable energy for eco-industrial park to ensure that parties have renewable energy to decarbonize their operation. We have so many other things that the IFC is able to do, and we look forward to engaging with parties in the room, and happy to answer many of the questions that you may have. Here we give an example of some of the things we've done in the market with some of the people in the room, but we'll be happy to take your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Femi, not only for today's presentation, also what actually IFC is doing for the betterment of our industries. So I would like to go for the second round of question. In this second round, I would like to expand on your presentation and dig a little deeper into collaborative actions and to hear suggestions from you about how we might improve the collaboration to achieve better results together. So, Felix, I would like to start with you. Can you share us how you think the apparel and the textile industries might collaborate better to achieve more results quicker? What role does Inditex see for itself and for brands and retailers in general?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question. I mentioned something during my presentation, but when we are talking about the decarbonization plan, we need to consider some factors, some elements in a very complex supply chain, no? Like this supply chain of textile and apparel industries. One, in our opinion, is the presence of many SMEs with different capacities, technical and financial capacities, to develop their own decarbonization plan. And a second element or factor is the characteristic of each sourcing country with different solutions or access, for instance, to different mix of energy and so on. And for that reason, I think the decarbonization plan led by the own industry, country by country, can be the best solutions and the quicker solution. What is or can be the role of a brand like Inditex? I think is to support the industry at the industry level with our knowledge and our financial support for this technical assistance to help the industry country by country to develop their own program. Thank you.
Thank you, Felix. Now I would like to go for Mr. Akila, as you hear from Mr. Felix, that how actually the buyers making the collaboration. But I would like to ask from your perspective, what does the ideal picture of industry's collaboration look like? What do you need from your clients, from your raw material supplier, from governments, from the NGOs, and from the financial institutions?
Yeah. So collaboration is very important in this industry because sustainability or decarbonization not is just one person's or one segment's problem. It's a common problem that we have. So you may be a brand, you may be a manufacturer, you may be a raw material supplier, but you should collaborate in this area because there's no point in competing with each other in areas where we need collaboration. So even within the manufacturing sector, we will have to collaborate with each other, share our knowledge in the ideal scenario. And especially from the brands, what we are looking for is long-term partnerships because these are decarbonization is mainly a long-term. We are investing in future. So if we don't know about the business future, it's very difficult for us to invest in our future. So we need that long-term partnerships with the brand so that we know where we are heading to. And also there are certain projects or like even for adaptability, there will be incremental cost in the OPEX. So we need some flexibility from the brand side in costing because every day the margins are coming down, the overheads are going up, and then we have adaptability as well coming into the picture. So that flexibility is also something that we would want. And also, like as I explained in my presentation, there's a big technology gap between what is available in the Northern Hemisphere compared to what we use in the manufacturing facilities. So it's important that we bridge that gap so that we are using the right technology in our operations. And so we need support from brands, organizations like IEF, ITMF to help us because all the organizations may not be able to afford technical expertise. Say, for an example, in Bangladesh, we have about 2,500 factories. In Sri Lanka also, we have a lot of factories. India, each factory may not be able to afford the right technical expertise, but if these organizations can do that, it will be a great help for the manufacturers in general. And of course, from the finance side, we can't do anything without them. So they have since we have worked with IFC, I know IFC has a very good model for large-scale manufacturers, which will not only help us for financing, but also help us streamline our processes because it's a complete package that they offer. And similarly, that's only about 5–10% of the manufacturers that we are talking about. For the balance 90 to 95%, we need a flexible model that can be easily adopted or used in to decarbonize the fashion value chain. So that's what we need from them as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Akila. I got two very important points for Mr. Felix: long-term partnership and share of expenditure, which is very important, the fund. Finally, Femi, is it clear that the reduction of waste in our industry will help reduce its greenhouse gas emission? And all of those efforts are costly, as Mr. Akila mentioned, and will only partly be covered by the consumers, end consumer, and by the cost reductions. In what way would IFC want to collaborate with the industries, more help finance this transition needed?
Thank you. I think the the points that Felix made about long-term partnership would be a good place to start. At the IFC, we don't see ourselves just as a bank. We see ourselves as a development partner. And what we do best when we have long-term partnership. So we've been in Bangladesh for over 10 years, working on pact. We're not leaving the factories alone to say, reduce your emission, improve your water resources and water usage. We put experts on the ground with boots on the ground to work with each of these companies to find ways to reduce their footprint. Energy efficiency, resource efficiency, water use. So we have the ability to put technical capacity in the field, especially for small SMEs who are making things in the field. They don't have the resources to hire a solar expert or a wind expert or an energy efficient resource person. We have the ability to deploy these parties to support the industry. The other thing we're trying to do to collaborate with the industry is share in the course of doing the analysis and the scoping required to identify investment projects. Before you can invest in emission reduction project, you need to do some technical studies. We have the ability to provide some of this funding, and we have donors who work with us, who provide financing for us. We can make some of this money available to companies that are interested in doing this. So even before we get to the investment stage, we have a host of things that we can do to support your industry, to share the cost and the burden of what is required for you to move the industry forward. Let me also mention when it comes to short-term financing. For many of the SMEs who are operating in your industry, they cannot go to a local bank and borrow money. For those who can go to local banks and borrow money, the interest rate will be so huge. We have designed a financing structure that allow early payment to many of these companies by leveraging the credit strength of the global brand that they sell to. So just imagine a small company in Pakistan or Sri Lanka borrowing money at the cost of borrowing of Nike. This is exactly what happens. When we do this, we kind of find a way of sharing the value that is created in the value chain with the small companies that are doing this work in the emerging market. There are a host of other things that we can do, and we'll be happy to share our presentation with members of the association to see how you can learn more about what we can do.
That's great. And that's great, Mr. Hamid. So now the most lucrative part of the session, question and answer from the audience. So we have 10 minutes. So I would like, the microphone, please.
Hello. Thank you very much for the presentations. I noticed that all three speakers mentioned the word sustainable materials. I just want to know what is the definition of sustainable materials for you?
So, well, I don't know if I can answer your question, but I suppose that you refer sustainable materials as next-gen fibers, next-generation fibers, recycled fibers, or what kind of materials are you asking for? Can you explain a little better? Sorry.
No, I just noticed that all three mentioned the word sustainable materials. I just want to know, what do you refer to when you mention the word in the presentation, sustainable materials?
Okay. No, when I refer about sustainable materials, I'm talking about the next generation fibers. It's in our fiber plan. We have a target to have in our portfolio of fibers in 2030 at least 25% of next generation fibers coming from recycling of the post-consumer or post-industrial textile waste. There are here few companies during these days, some colleagues and friends where they are developing new technologies to process this kind of waste that are very promising. I think we have in Europe right now, because the regulation is coming about the APR schemes that will be compulsory in Europe very soon. In the case of Spain, we are waiting for the specific regulation for the textile and footwear EPR during 2025, and increase of the volume of waste collected, post-consumer waste collected, will be very big, and we have a challenge to transform this waste in new materials that can be reintroduced again in the products. You know, I was talking about this specific point. Yeah.
Table 7, I think.
Can I just respond quickly to this? So just a quick one on this one, right? So I'm going to answer your question, but not from a technology perspective. For us, sustainability is thinking about three things. You're going to think about the people. So are you using products that are good for the health and the well-being of the workers in your factory? Are you using products that is good for the planet in terms of the impact on the planet? Are you also considering the profit of your business as well? Because if it's good for the environment, it's good for the head of the people, but you cannot make money, then you are not sustainable. If it is making money, but it's going to cause hazardous situation for your workers, it's a problem. And then if it is same for the environment, it's a problem. So if you think about the products you use, the processes you use, you think about the profit, you think about the planet, you think about the people who are doing. If you look at those three dimensions, does it make sense overall? That would be what we'll be thinking about when we think about, you know, sustainability.
Please. Yeah, then table 7.
Who starts? Okay, my name is Mr. Meinberger. I'm from Benninger, textile machine manufacturer, basically wet finishing machine. I'm now in the textile value chain for many decades. My question goes to Inditex. What are the brands doing? We speak always about the brands, and the brands have a huge responsibility because of their purchasing power. What are they doing in terms of design of garments, fabrics? Because often being in mechanical engineering, the big mistakes always happen at the beginning, and afterwards everything is cut in the race to the bottom, means to the lowest cost. And doing a design, and even the design of a fabric, doesn't use multiple fibers, don't mix yarn in a fabric, and afterwards finishing and production becomes very complicated. There could be much, much more done at the beginning. How are the brands, and especially Inditex, are going to address that problem?
Okay. Well, I can only answer your question as Inditex. No, I cannot speak in the name of other brands. Yesterday, Dirk was talking about the new eco-design regulation. I mentioned this regulation as well today in the presentation. And there are few elements in this new regulation. That is the durability, the recyclability, the reparability of the garments that we are working right now to be ready when the regulation will be compulsory, you know. It's going to change the landscape about the questions that you are mentioning about the design of the fabric and the product. Probably yes. I'm not the right answer. I don't have the right answer because the future is the future. But I think all these elements in the definition of a product will be very critical, and for sure will change many aspects of the yarn production, of the fabric production. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you please come to the table number 7? Because, and those who have the mic, please look into the stage, otherwise you're missing the instruction. Yeah, the second last question, and last question from table number 7.
My name is Anuj Bhagwati, and my question, one question is for Aquila Fernando. You mentioned hybrid cooling. I was interested to understand in terms of that, what you meant by hybrid cooling. And I guess the second question is a little discussion we had on the table here, that we've talked about responsible manufacturing, but if we start talking about responsible consumption, what might that mean for industry? Thank you.
Yeah. So I'll briefly explain what hybrid cooling is. Like now, for human comfort, when it is through ventilation, there are many factors that are involved, like the temperature, humidity, air velocity. Now, in an air-conditioned setup, we are only looking at the temperature and the humidity, but in hybrid cooling, we are looking at air speed, so it will be a combination of mechanical ventilation, like the HVLS fans or some mechanical ventilation, plus temperature. So if you look at in the curve, you don't have to maintain the temperature at 24 degrees, but instead you can maintain temperature at 27 or 28 degrees with mechanical ventilation. It will give you better efficiency in terms of the electricity consumption. I think I answered your question.
Thank you. Finally, I have a chance to raise my question, but also the question is for Felix. Very detailed one. I'm so excited about your commitment of the reduction of CO2 emission of scope 3. I'm from NTSC. We have been working quite a long time for the industry solution, how to get the exact, traceable, and reliable CO2 emission of scope 3. So my question is whether your commitment of 50% reduction by 2030 of scope 3 is based on the survey of all of your suppliers globally, by which way you successfully to collect this kind of information. We would like to have your experience sharing. My next question is, it is 2024 this year, so by 2030, not too much time left. For Inditex, do you have any supporting policy for you to fulfill your commitment of scope 3 reduction CO2 emission, such as a better purchasing order, and new suppliers with a better CO2 emission performance, or any supporting for the green financial? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your question. Thank you very much. The first question was about the collection of the information. Yeah. We have developed our own sites, where we communicate between factories, suppliers, and Inditex the information about the specific transformation plan for each factory. Okay. Through this site, we are going to collect also information from the factories about water consumption, energy consumption that we will transform into CO2 footprint, to analyze and to evaluate the evolution of its transformation plan. We decided to develop our own tool because we have been exploring other industrial solutions, but we didn't find till this moment the right or the proper platform to communicate with the different players in the value chain. But we are still exploring industrial solutions that can be used by everybody, everywhere, you know. In this moment, because we started this year with this transformation plan, we prefer to develop something very simple, to collect this information, okay? And your second question was about the policy. How we are going to collaborate with the suppliers and factories in our supply chain to develop the transformation plan. We started this springtime with first round of presentation, country by country, explaining we started with the wet processors mill, you know, the main players, the VIP players in our supply chain. That means that they are the factories that has been working with us during many, many years, and they have big volumes of production for us. Right now in September, we will start the second round that is more focusing spinning and fabric mills. And in the meantime, we are preparing it's like a MOU that both parties will sign. It's a real commitment where we are offering them the technical support to help them to develop their own transformation plan, and the factories commit with us to make the best effort to implement the transformation plan. This is more or less the governance of this scheme. Thank you.
Thank you. We have completed our time schedule. Thank you, the panelists, and a big thanks to the audience for your passionate participation. Thank you all.
Please stay with us. We have one more presentation that is not on the program, so please stay with us for 8 more minutes. After the handover of the gifts and the photo taken, we will have one more presentation. So before we break for coffee and tea, we would like to give the floor to another example of collaboration. For this, I would like to invite to the stage Mr. Tao Shang from CCP ITTex from China, Vice President. Mr. Shang, please join the floor. Thank you.
First of all, I would like to say thanks to the organizer of this grand convention for offering me this opportunity to have a promotion pitch before the coffee break. Thank you so much. Mr. Mir Mukhusin Sultanov, Chairman of UZTP, Mr. Kiwi Srinivasan, President of ITMF, Mr. Sam Aten, President of IVF, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm honored to speak to you today on behalf of the organizing committee of AP Texpo, with the permission of ITMF to introduce a groundbreaking international event coming to Singapore this November, the Asian Pacific Textile and Apparel Supply Chain Expo and Summit, or AP Texpo for short. This event is set to redefine traditional trade fairs in the textile and apparel industry, acting as a catalyst for both supply and demand sides to innovate and evolve new forms of supply chains. Today, I will cover 3 main topics: the rationales behind this event, the current status of our preparations, and the distinguished global guests we hope to engage. As we all know, the world is undergoing significant adjustments and reorganization. The global supply chain has seen drastic changes, and the textile and apparel industry is no exception. In this transformative period, establishing a resilient, adaptive, and sustainable supply chain ecosystem is vital for the progress of the textile and apparel sectors worldwide. The Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP, represents the largest free trade agreement to date. Its full implementation offers an excellent platform and policy incentives for the Asian Pacific region to navigate these changes and foster closer cooperation within industry and supply chains. In response to this backdrop, re-engineering our textile and apparel supply chains to be more resilient, adaptive, and sustainable has become a shared concern among industry participants in the Asian Pacific region. To address this trend and the demand, the ASEAN Federation of Textile Industry and China National Textile and Apparel Council have jointly initiated AP-Texpo. This new transnational cooperation platform aims to enhance supply chain cooperation in the region and serve the global market. AP-Texpo is said to be the first international platform covering the entire textile and apparel industry ecosystem in the Asian Pacific region. With a focus on the supply chain, it will serve as a global thought leadership forum, fostering collaborations and discussion to tackle industry challenges. The inaugural AP-Texpo will be held at the SENS Convention and Exhibition Center in Singapore this November. With advantages such as multi-country visa exceptions, a centralized buyer's office cluster, an excellent location, and a favorable business environment, we anticipate over 300 top leaders in the textile and apparel industry, approximately 3,000 leading purchasers and buyers to attend the show. Recognizing the significance and the potential of this new platform, global industry organizations, including ITMF, have expressed their support for AP-Texpo. This support extends across national industry associations from ASEAN countries, BKMEA from Bangladesh, organizations from Hong Kong and China, as well as local institutions and chambers of commerce in Singapore. AP-Texpo is co-organized by CCPIT Tex and MP in Singapore. CCPIT Tex focuses on Chinese market, while MP, part of the publicly listed PICO Group, headquartered in Hong Kong, manages the overall organization and execution of the event. Additionally, our special digital partner, Forsource, a Germany-based online B2B order matchmaking platform, will provide support for both online and offline linkage service, bringing additional value to all participants. With such a robust organization structure, AP-Texpo has already achieved significant milestone after nearly half a year of preparation. The event will feature three main components: the expo, the summit, and supporting activities. As I mentioned earlier, the AP-Texpo exhibition will extend beyond a traditional trade show, integrating industry and service platform. Over 4,000 square meters of exhibition space will showcase competitive products and supply chain capabilities from global partners, e-commerce platform, logistics, warehousing, financial companies, investment consultants, industrial parks, and government institutions will all contribute to building a strong foundation for regional industry chain integration. By the end of August, over 110 companies from the textile and apparel industries from China, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Hong Kong, Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Myanmar, and the United States have registered for APTexpo. And the exhibition space is nearly fully booked. We are now focusing on inviting more global buyers to attend the event. For the market promotion of buyers and attendees, we have extended invitations to a group of influential international brand buyers who will not only visit Expo, but also participate in the APTexpo Summit and the supporting activities. From November 13th to 15th, the APTexpo Summit will address various topics related to textile and apparel supply chain, re-engineering, and cooperation. Industry experts, leaders, and entrepreneurs will share their insights on the latest trends, supply chain safety, new market exploration, and frontier technology, sustainable solutions. Regional manufacturing capability cooperation will also be a key topic. Concurrent closed-door workshops and activities will offer deep exchange opportunities for VIP guests, facilitating easier networking within the region. APTexpo eagerly anticipates welcoming global friends and partners, including leaders and experts from global industry associations, textile and apparel supply chain manufacturers, representatives from multinational trading companies, import and export companies, brand companies, and also sourcing departments. We hope that through APTexpo, participants will secure orders, benefit from new partnerships, explore broader investment and joint venture opportunities, generate new business leads, and actively engage in the global textile and apparel supply chain. On behalf of the APTexpo Organizing Committee, I extend a heartfelt invitation to all present. APTexpo is ready to offer a platform for communication with partners in the Asia-Pacific region and will provide specific benefits for ITMF members and guests. We look forward to seeing all distinguished guests in Singapore this November. Thank you and have a good day.